my next point is, please lower the amount of salary that MPs get paid. There's too much. 93k, almost 100 guilty, but the 93k plus like expenses on employment and helping you be an MP, that's all paid as well. So there's almost 100k a year to be an MP. And I know sometimes MPs would stay in that office for long. They might stay in for 5 years and then get a new MP in. So not guarantee that job for 30 years. But that is the job. If you're not good enough and your area feels there's someone better, then that's just how politics works. But 93k is too much. It's too much for the job that it is. I know it's a very important job, I respect politicians and people for doing it. I just think nearly 100k for something that is almost selfless. It's a job that serves the people, you know. And you'll see why people start accusing politicians of just going it for their own. 100k or roughly near is quite nice of a salary for an average UK citizen. It is quite nice. Teachers only make about 30 to 40, roughly. So 100k a year, 93k, is just, it needs to be lowered. If governments start talking about cutting and trying to make money in some places, that is a place you can make money. And it's not going to, if they truly want to change the lives of their area, of their constituency, then they will take the cut. If they truly want to change how the UK's finances work, they will take the cut. And I'm not saying I'm not saying they should only get 20k annually. I am saying just take it down by at least 20 or 30k. And if you do that for every MP, we'll have so much money to spend on the NHS, we'll have so much money to spend on all finances. You can live easily on 70k. You could cut down the MP's wage to 40, the same as teachers. Teachers live, and teachers can't live. So the fact that people think that, or the government thinks 93k is like fine, I think it's appalling. I think they need to cut it down by a lot. Not half, maybe about, let's say 50, 60. It's just ridiculous that people of power that can change things earn that much money. And as I say, you can see why people start accusing politicians of just going in for themselves. Because you can see it with other people. You can see it. There's so many stories of politicians and MPs getting this money and then starting up their own company. And then with that money they've made, starting up their own company, making loads of money from it. And I think it's appalling that happens. You will truly see you'll see more money come into the finance, and you'll see more genuine MPs and politicians come into the sphere of influence if you take the money down. The first point I'd like to make about what I feel should happen in politics and in this country is party leaders meeting with each other. And I mean the Prime Minister and all the other party leaders together in one meeting for a good solid amount of time. Why do I think this? I think they need to actually, all different areas of politics to actually discuss how they want to fix this country. I know the Prime Minister would have the big majority of people backing him, but I feel for example, with Keir Starmer, a lot of Labour supporters who voted for him actually are now switching over to different parties because of what he's done so far. Now, I'm not going to comment on what he's done so far and if I think it's good or bad. I am just saying a lot of people have changed over to different parties. They've gone to maybe Reform, they've gone over to Conservative, they might have gone to Green, they might have gone to Liberal. But if that happens and they go on to another side, the numbers have changed. There's a different amount of people who support different ones. So I feel if they all get together and are meeting once a week, then the Prime Minister can actually take advice from the other leaders, say ideas, say what their supporters want to hear. For example, if it came to migration, Reform would probably start talking about more migration and start saying ideas. Will every idea from each party be good? No, because they'll say different ideologies because that's what people vote for them. But it'll give an idea of what the country wants. Because, for example, Reform seem to be heading in the polls and doing well and may win the next general election. What I'm suggesting is that if they truly, each party leader wants the truly best for this country, get them all together in a meeting, and I don't mean PMQs on Wednesday when sort of hash and bash. I mean solid conversation with all party leaders discussing how the country should work. And if all party leaders agree to that, they all want the best. If they don't want the best, they won't show up. And I feel that's the basics of it. If they don't show up, they don't want the country to get better, and it will show what some politicians really are, which is they want power for themselves, not to help the country. To show up, they want to help the country, and I feel it'll bring, so it won't fix the country, but it'll be a nice step in the right direction. We need to bring politics back together. There are too many parties and too many different areas of politics where if that one point isn't right, then you can't be part of my politics. You can't be part of my group. And I feel that's wrong. I feel it needs to have some opposition in politics always, because you always need to question why that's happening, or it's not politics, democracy. But you need to have it so it's not that every single party has one thing that they're going to change if they go into government, or it's not one pressing issue that overarches all their politics. It needs to be just two areas. Two areas, maybe left and right, where they have a selection of ideas, the opposition have a selection of ideas. If you start picking apart the different politics and making parties for each area, no matter how pressing it is, it won't work. You won't have a functioning government. You'll have just pieces of different parts of politics, and that won't make the country run together as a whole. Cut ministers and members that are important, like the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Defense, stuff like that. Please put people who actually know that area in charge. I feel it's quite a simple idea and philosophy, is that if they're in charge of somewhere, like in charge of something or somewhere, please put people who know what they're doing. Don't just put people in random because you feel like it. I feel this happened a lot in the late Conservative government of the previous government. I feel there needs to be more of that and more checks that people who are deemed, say, have a good background in the army or have a good background in health, they need to be put where they're supposed to, so that the country, if you're the head of it, practically means you are the highest level of authority on that level. And it doesn't make sense if, say, for example, say in real life, if you put let's say like an apprentice nurse or something like that, and put them as the head of the hospital, it doesn't make sense. So I feel you need to put people where they specialise. If you don't do that, then you're just going to get a mess of an area, and then it will backfire. Then they get sacked, or they get punished in the press or something like that, or just it doesn't work. And then you have to find someone else to just keep rotating these people who don't know what they're doing. If you put someone in charge who knows the area, I know that you have to put MPs in charge, and not all MPs have backgrounds, but surely there are some of every level, especially the main ones like defense and health and finance. Please make sure they have the background for it. I feel it needs to be mandatory in every government to actually have someone who's experienced and actually has a level of experience for that ministry level. The next point I'd like to make is about the monarchy of Great Britain. Now, I'm not for or against the monarchy. It's kind of like just a side piece of this country, I feel. So, like, if it's here, cool. If it's not, I don't mind. I don't really care about the monarchy. What I do care about is how much taxpayers and the people of this country spend on it. Now, the monarchy make an absurd amount of money for themselves. They make a lot of money for the country, to be fair, of tourism, etc. But they also have a lot of money themselves. So when I see statistics like the coronation for King Charles costed £72 million, I think it's a little bit ridiculous, personally. I just feel, why are taxpayers and the people of this country paying 72 million for for an event that can be used money from the monarchy itself? My next point is that I feel politics needs to be more serious. It needs to be about the people. And when I watch PMQs or I watch politics, it's me discussing serious. I won't say anything like relevant, but they discuss something serious. And then either they start laughing about something the other opposition have said, or the opposition start laughing in a joke at them, a person who said the serious thing. And I feel we need to take it out. The amount of times I've seen a PMQs, the Prime Minister or the opposition say something to do with like the war in Ukraine or something that's really deep and meaningful and people have lost lives over, and then the opposition go, or the Prime Minister will go, oh, but this is what, and say a silly, cringy joke. If it's talking about people, if it's talking about politics, I don't think, no matter what the politics is, politics affects people's lives. And if you're laughing at it or making jokes about it, I feel it shouldn't be in politics. For example, I feel like there should be maybe just a tight, a crushing down on these jokes, because when it looks out of touch by people, it looks out of touch from me, it looks out of touch from everybody else on the outside. And it's only a quick joke, but it just makes it seem politics isn't as serious as it is, and it is very serious. There's no joking in politics. You can't have a joke in politics. You can have the quick now and then, but when you're talking about serious stuff, and especially if you're the Prime Minister or the leader of the opposition who's meant to be questioning the Prime Minister and what he's doing, I feel it's not appropriate. If you're on the news article or you're talking about on a podcast or something and it's less serious, I get that, that's fine. But when it's the Prime Minister or it's the opposition or it's some pressing issue, you shouldn't be able to laugh and make jokes out of it. Keep it serious, but make it even more serious. The next point I'd like to make is about Prime Minister's salary or allowance after office. Now, Prime Ministers get about 115k in allowance that they can claim up to every year. Now, that doesn't seem a lot, but if we think about the last decade, we've had about 4 Prime Ministers, not including Keir, who's current, but 4 ex-Prime Ministers who can claim up to that amount. And if you think about it, that's roughly doing the math, that's nearly $500,000 in money. That's just that they can claim. I know that they may not all claim that, but they can claim that amount. And I think that's ridiculous. That's $500,000. When, let's be honest, they're not going to go homeless. after being a prime minister. They'll have other duties that they'll do, and I'm not saying to get rid of it all. I'm saying half it at least to about 65K. That is a decent living wage. And if you halve it to then at least some money that can be saved can actually go into the country, can go into health or defense, or it can go to anything that improves the country. Why would we want to give ex-prime ministers this amount of money just for them to spend it on a house, like a third house, or extra cars or anything like that? It's like, if they have done a supreme amount of time in office, then I can get it in a certain aspect. But people like Liz Truss, who spent a summer holiday in office, can now claim that forever. For, let's be honest, didn't do anything but damage the country. So I'm saying just either do it on a level of like yearly basis, like if you spend 10 years in office, then you get a certain amount, or just cut it completely. You cut it to, as I say, halve it to about 65K. That is more than enough, because let's be honest, they will carry on doing their lot and carry on doing service in public life, or they'll find something else to do. Look at it like look at Rishi Sunak. He lost lost in the election, so he wasn't prime minister, but he still became an MP. He still carried on his MP life, so he still gets a ridiculous amount of money. He still gets about 93K, roughly. So Rishi Sunak can claim that MP amount of money, and because he was prime minister. It's just ridiculous on how that works. I know that prime minister's job is short term compared to teachers or any sort of job, but having it as 115 at least maximum roughly allowance I think is unnecessary when it could be spent on a nurse's salary